Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the One Nation of Gamers Hearthstone Major from PAX East. Once again, I'm TJ, and I'm joined by That's Admirable. We just saw a pretty cool series with Raynad taking a 3-1 victory over Phoenix, and now this matchup, which is Radlak versus Roaster, both Shamans have been banned. Does this surprise you at all, Admirable?
I think with these lineups, it doesn't really surprise me much. Mage Rogue, Paladin. I'm sorry, Mage Rogue, Priest, and Shaman on Roaster side. I'm definitely picking out the Shaman from that one. Warlock, Warrior, Shaman, and Mage from Radlak. Maybe that Warlock's got kind of a target on its forehead, but given what we just saw from the last match, I think I'm taking out that Shaman. It looked like it was pretty brutal in the last series. Roaster's lineup also looks a little bit weak to Shaman. Probably a little bit more than I'd say it is to Warlock. Like maybe his Mage and his Priest are kind of built to fend off some of the Zoo decks that are out there. At least that's the way direction I imagine those would have taken. So because of that, Shaman Binge is looking on both sides. But these lineups are definitely different than what we typically see in a lot of tournaments at the top end. And that's something we touched on earlier. Open players will tend to bring their favorite decks, and that's kind of what we're seeing in this one, I think.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see exactly what type of decks these are going to be. But before we jump into the matchup, we do want to give you guys a heads up. ONOG has this really cool thing that they're doing for attendees at PAX East right now. It's actually a mobile app that's in beta right now. It's called the ONOG Battle Zone mobile app. If you go on your app store for whatever OS you have on your phone, just type in Battle Zone Beta in the search. And if you're at PAX East, you register for an account, you put in your battle tag, and you can actually battle against players that are attending PAX. So it like searches for an opponent on the Wi-Fi there, and you can battle against players, and you can have a chance to win Razor gear, cash, and you can even get invites to some of the special events that One Nation of Gamers is going to be putting on. So if you are at PAX East and you want to battle it out and have a chance to win some of those prizes, search for that app, get on it. You can also head to play.onog.gg if you want some more information. Or, just head over to the GEICO gaming booth, and I'm sure there'll be someone there to help you out, and there'll be other players there that they can find and play against using that app. So make sure you check that out. It's a really cool thing, and of course you have a chance to win some cool stuff. So it should be great. But like I said, we should be pretty close to jumping into this match. Both these players a little bit less known, I'd say, than Raynad, to say the least.
Yeah, I think most players are probably going to fit the category of less known than Raynad. Excellent observation there, TJ. The fact that one of the most popular figures in the game was the first match that we had. Two players that I am personally unfamiliar with, Radlak and Toaster. Is it Toaster or is it Roaster? Because I mean, we said Roaster earlier, right? It's Toaster.
It's Toaster. It's Toaster.
Hey, the R and the T are right next to each other, and they basically mean the same thing anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, toasting and roasting is the same. And when I wake up in the mornings, I go to my toaster and I roast some toast. That's exactly what I do.
And then I disguise it, so that way it's got a giant paper bag over its head when it streams.
Yeah, exactly. Disguised toast. But yeah, this is going to be. I'm really curious to see what type of mages these are for both of these players, because there's absolutely nothing that we can do to pinpoint what these decks could be.
I'm just going to call it right now. I'm just going to Radlak is Tempo Mage, Toaster is Freeze Mage, period.
Okay, I'm going to say they're both Freeze Mage.
Yeah, I got $1 on it.
One whole dollar?
Whole dollar, TJ, let's go.
I was going to say I don't have my wallet on me right now. I think my wallet has literally $1. Wow. You have a crisp $1 bill just rearing and ready to go.
It's for moments just like these. I
will bet this cool Hearthstone poster.
Okay, that's cool. I'm going to bet this cool Hearthstone thing that I haven't hung up just yet.
Okay. Bet's on.
Oh, all right, it's on.
I don't want to bet this. I take my bet back. We didn't shake on it.
Doesn't work. Doesn't work quite. I'll reach over to the right.
Wait. Put your hand again for the handshake.
Wow, that's cold.
Gotcha.
That's super cold.
Got him.
I see how it is. That's cool. I'll remember that next time we battle.
All right. Well, the players are selecting decks right now, which means we should be jumping into the matches as soon as the loading screen goes through. So once again, we're still in the first round. of the round of 128, I do believe. So today we'll be broadcasting that first half of the round of 128. Tomorrow we'll be broadcasting the second half, plus a little bit of extra, maybe moving on to the round of 64 and 32. And then on the final day, of course, it's going to be a long day. We're going to go all the way to the finals, and we're going to see who's going to win the Hearthstone Major presented by the One Nation of Gamers, and who's going to get that spot at the One Nation of Gamers 2016 Circuit Finals at PAX Prime. So looking forward to it. Radlak's looking like he's sitting a little bit far down in that chair. And there's the infamous Toaster.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be that mid-range warrior deck we've been seeing crop up in recent times on ladder versus what looks like Dragon Priest to me. You know, that is a 2-1 Whelp on turn 1, and that is a Blackwing Corruptor in his hand. So I'd be super surprised if this was ever not Dragon Priest somehow. Second Twilight Whelp, I imagine, is probably going to be staying in hand, and no real action from that. And that's going to be Fierce Monkey and a strong curve afterwards for Radlak. And that's kind of what this deck is all about, is just curving out and trying to put pressure on your opponents. Where Toaster's side, Dragon Priest needs to take control of the metagame. I'm sorry, of the metagame. Needs to take control of the board very early on and keep that pressure high and use that hero power to keep their minions stopped off the whole time.
Needs to take control of the meta.
Not for the Golden Monkey to find its way into the deck. I think that Monkey's got on board is golden enough right now.
Yeah, I'd say so. This is going to be hard for Toaster to fight back. He does pick up a second Dragonid Crusher. Does have that Dragon Tribe, so he's free to play that Twilight Whelp now that he can use the Blackwing Corruptor in the following turns. Arch Thief Rafam picked up. Yeah, this deck is pretty nuts. I mean, we can see already the power of it. It uses weapons to sort of tempo out and uses the curve to have that really strong mid game, and then has secondary win conditions besides just taking control of the board and tempoing your opponent with Elise Starseeker, with Archthief Rafam, which is sort of a win condition. It's a very late game card that's very powerful.
Yeah, kind of a tough spot here for Radlak. A lot of different plays he can make, and none of them are too clean aside from Fiery Warax on the Twilight Whelp. And with Bash, it looks like he's going to be investing some of his minion health to clearing that up. You don't want to leave Dark Cultist around to have that buff be ready for other things. So he's going to forego the development this turn to just make sure that his opponent can't snag that buff from Dark Cultist. And with a Dragon in hand, Toaster's got that option of Blackwing Corruptor. It's looking like he's going with Wormrest Agent here, though. Can't blame it. It's going to take both attacks to get through that. He's not anticipating Shield Slam, it looks like, right here. So Shield Slam, Sludge Belcher, going to be a nice turn here for Radlak. Ooh, a Gorehowl gets drawn.
Yeah. He's going to Shield Slam. I guess trying to prevent draws. And also, Elise Starseeker being traded in to a 2-4 just doesn't feel that great. And preserving the board is really important with this. Since it is sort of, a minion focus, tempo-ish style deck, you do need to have board presence if you wanna win the match. So Rend Blackhand.
Yeah, sort of an interesting one. I mean, that card's pretty much targeted at taking out, like Emperor Thorson and the like. This Gorehowl is going to completely crush this board position for quite a while at this point. I mean, Toaster's going to be playing one threat a turn, and Gorehowl's going to answer at least 3 in a row. Like, this is horrible news for Toaster at this point. The Warrior deck is curved out very well. He's used his Shield Slam very timely. He's been keeping a lot of pressure, got a lot of value out of that Elise. That's something that Elise is not really aimed at. It's aimed at that long-term effect from the Golden Monkey cropping up in your build at some point. But in this game, it just pulled a lot of weight. And I think because of that, Toaster is going to find himself in a nigh unrecoverable position. Like, if he draws Light Bomb here, I think he's in decent shape. But outside of that draw, I'm not sure how he recovers this one.
Yeah, he draws Light Bomb, he plays Light Bomb, then he has to deal with the Archthief Rafam. And then he has to worry about whatever card that Radlak's going to choose from the Archthief Rafam. So much going on, and is that a 6 durability? Yeah,
okay. It's at 6 power right now.
One
Clean
damage.
kill into Archthief.
Yeah.
And Archthief doesn't die to Light Bomb. He's a 7/8.
Yeah. 7/8 feels like it's one of the most powerful bodies in the game.
It feels that way. It's not quite that way, but it feels that way.
Yeah, against priests, a lot of times it feels that way because they have to have Shadow or Death to answer it.
Yeah.
And of course, you can always pick up the give a minion +10/+10.
10 damage all day.
Yeah, 10 damage all day.
So good. Yeah, that's gonna wrap things up. Toaster has basically no outs in this one.
Yeah, even if he does pick up Light Bomb. Yeah.
I just feel bad for him. I'm like, oh my gosh. Archetype for bomb. It's attacking.
All right, well, that's Radlak. He's going to take not a quick victory, but a pretty decisive one in game number 1, defeating the Dragon Priest of Toaster. And now Radlak has that sort of information. He knows that this is a Dragon Priest from Toaster, and that could give him a little bit of leg up. Dragon Priest has a little bit different of a play style than, say, just standard Control Priest. So there's things that you can play around a little bit more, like Blackwing Corruptor. A lot of times you don't have to play around like Akanai Soul Priest, Circle of Healing, those types of combinations, because they're a lot less likely in Dragon Priest. So we'll see if that's going to affect his decision making. And it looks like we are just going to jump right into game number 2. And this is what you predicted.
No, it's not. I predicted Toaster was going to have the Freeze Mage and that Radlak was going to have the Tempo Mage.
Well, we were both wrong. We were both wrong. Oh, well. Bummer.
I feel like we were both equally wrong as well.
Wait, that's an Ice Barrier.
Oh, this could be Grinder Mage.
It could be. It could be. Oh, I was going to say Reno Mage, but that's out the window.
Frostwolf Grunt. Great unstable portal. It's always the one I'm looking for. Yeah, this is Freeze Mage versus what appears to be Grinder Mage. This is actually kind of an interesting matchup. Where both of these decks have like really long-term game plans where their goal is to stall out the board as long as possible until they've built up an overwhelming advantage. But their overwhelming advantages are very different on each side. Like Toaster's looking to kind of grind his opponent's cards into the dust, and Radlak is looking for that critical massive damage in his hand. So if Toaster can, say, piece together a couple copies of like Anti-Keelbot or something, it's a spot where maybe he can get past the burst potential from Radlak, and Ethereal Arcanist finds its way in the hand, so I'm guessing this is some sort of variation of Secret Mage.
Yeah. All right, Admiral, I'll be back in 3 hours when this game's about to wrap up.
TJ has walked away!
No, this is a really interesting deck. I just... in a counterspell, and I have no idea what card's going to come next. I saw TJ, Arcade Intellect, I saw Azure Drake, I saw Watermelon, I'm like, God, this is Tempo Mage, easy.
TJ, I know you have a lot of experience with Secret Mage.
TJ, I know you have a lot of experience with decks that nobody ever plays. Yep, that is correct. What you really want to do here in this matchup is get your secrets out early and then play cards that benefit from you having secrets.
Whoa.
And then eventually you have to create a win condition out of thin air.
With cards like Duplicate and Unstable Portal.
Exactly.
You know what's kind of funny is that actually Ethereal Arcanist I don't think is that bad in this matchup. I mean, that's something that Radlak really needs to kill.
Yeah.
Like if Secrets sit on board and he's got Ethereal Arcanist growing, that's a problem. And it's a major problem too. Something that Freeze Mage has typically had a lot of trouble with is just one big guy backed up by stuff. And a card like Ethereal Arcanist isn't something you're anticipating basically ever.
Yeah. Ethereal Arcanist is basically a strictly better Gruul.
That I will agree with.
Strictly better, one of my favorite buzz terms.
It's a great one. I always love when it's strictly better. Like, strictly better in the metagame is usually what people mean.
No, I mean just strictly better.
TJ understands the linear power of all cards.
Yeah, because every single card has linear power, of course.
Emperor Thorson
Everybody
in hand.
knows that.
You know, not a lot of key cards in his hand for Emperor Thorson, so I wouldn't be, like, surprised to see Radlak save this. But it's always tough to save Emperor Thorson in the hand. I mean, something I think, too, is some of the best Freeze Mage games I've ever seen played. Ostkaka comes to mind in that one. I've seen him hold on to Emperor Thorson for so long in certain kinds of hands where I know I would have played it sooner, and then watch him literally win the game because he held on to Emperor Thorson as long as he did. And plays like that, those are like masterpiece style games. But having watched those games played, you can take those lessons and apply them to things you have in the past. So if Radlak has a lot of experience on Freeze Mage, or he's watched some very experienced players play with this deck, it wouldn't be too surprising to see him hold on to this Emperor Thaurissan like he has.
Yeah. And really smart of Radlak to go ahead and use the coin there after testing for both of these secrets. So realizing that, this could be anything. Probably Counterspell, and that's exactly what it's going to be. And perhaps this Ethereal Arcanist has met the end of its days. Maybe Toaster will decide that it's worth double Frostbolt plus ping in order to preserve this, and it looks like that's going to be the case. So with Mana Worm on the board, you're sort of doubling up with this as well. He's just hoping that these aren't going to get removed because he's expending a lot of resources just to protect these 2 minions.
Second Doomsayer he's seen at this point, so Ethereal at 7/7. This is the turn that Radlak has to answer it. He has the tools to answer it, but this was kind of like the last opportunity for him. Toaster's tried to put in a lot of work to get this done, and Radlak going to have to invest basically his entire turn in to take care of the Ethereal. If he lets that live, that guy's going to become a 9/9, and suddenly that's an issue. And I don't think it's something he can necessarily afford at this point. So it looks like he's going to leave it around, though, and it is not too bad. He still does have Blood Mage, Fireball, and Ping to take care of it next turn, but again, every single turn that you wait, it's like kind of a little bit of a risk you're taking. Like, say Toaster decided to play Ethereal Conjurer here and finds another counterspell from it. That could be a way to offset Radlak's ability to deal with it. But at this point, I think Toaster just thinks Radlak doesn't have a way to deal with it, so why try to invest into that?
Yeah. All right. Well, one thing that we didn't talk about too much was this is a Reno Freeze Mage, so it's a little bit of an extra dynamic. A lot of times the Reno Freeze Mage will run 2 ofs. It's one of the only Reno decks that can afford to get away with running 2 ofs. You have typically a lot more cycle. Maybe the only deck that will have more cycle because of the hero power is Reno Warlock. But you really want to play Reno after pretty much everything's been used. After you've played both ice blocks, after both ice barriers are gone, it's like the last card that you play. And a lot of times by then you've already been through so much of your deck. That's aggressive.
Yeah, that's just straight up Alexstrasza. And doesn't quite have the burn to end this one yet. He's got 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 damage available next turn. Now, he does have quite a bit of time to work with here. He's got at least 2 turns. Bare bones minimum, he's got 2 more turns. So it's kind of looking like Radlak's banking on drawing a burn spell in the next couple of turns here to finish this one. But he's already seen a counterspell from Toaster. Is he anticipating another counterspell, perhaps?
I'm not sure. He's seen 2 ofs with the Mana Worm, I do think. So, there is a chance that he might think this is another weird Reno Mage. Like, not Reno Freeze, but Value Reno. But yeah, that was a very risky play to just snap call that Alexstrasza. And we'll see if Radlak can piece together the amount of burn before he gets pushed out by this giant Ethereal Arcanist that he had the chance to remove, but decided to leave up to go with this game plan.
Yeah, still has the option to remove it, but he just went for Alexstrasza. So if he decides to remove it now, post Alexstrasza, he's really lost a lot of his long-term potential with it. And it looks like he's going for Emperor this turn. I think Radlak's thrown off a bit by this very different board presence that's happened here. This is a tough spot.
I have no idea what I'm looking at right now.
And you're looking at a couple of uncastable cards. Pyroblast actually is not that bad. Looks like he's going to Frostbolt and Ice Barrier just extend his life.
Yeah.
As much as he can this turn.
It effectively buys him an extra turn. 1 extra turn on top of whatever, since he's plays the Ice Barrier, which blocks most of the damage on the board. And this is a Ethereal Conjurer. You've been mentioning a lot in what specifically he can pick up, but what it does is it gives him options. It gives Toaster a lot of options. There's a lot of great cards that he can pick up that can prolong his life, and Ice Block, or even like, I don't even know. There's a counterspell, like you said earlier. A lot of the secrets are going to be really great. So he's going to save it until he knows that he's looking for something very specific, until he's narrowing the possible options that he could get.
Ooh, another Ice Block's a great draw.
Yeah.
So Blizzard going to come out take care of the damage that's incoming for another turn. You know, I'm guessing you're supposed to fireball here, but he's kind of faced that one position. Like, do I fireball face or a fireball the Arcanist? He thinks 13 power is a little bit too much at this point. I don't necessarily disagree with him. I would have liked to see that taken care of a little bit earlier, but just kind of the fact that he's playing against a build that he can't piece together what he's playing against. You know, this isn't a deck like you see in the metagame.
Yeah,
it's a secret mage deck with a lot of heavy mid range in it, and that's something that Freeze Mage can really struggle with.
Forgotten Torch. He did have the option of a Spell Bender there, but not that great against Freeze Mage, since most of the time their spells are usually pointed at your face. So Spellbender just doesn't proc. It could be a good bluffing tool, but it's also one of those secrets that's not easy, but if you can narrow it down, it can sometimes be easy to spot. And
well, Reno just became active.
Wow.
So that opens up another option here for Radlak. He's getting really low on the number of cards in the deck, though. He's got to piece together a way to actually win this game. And he's used Frostbolt. He's used a Fireball at this point as well. Like, those Ice Lance, those don't do damage unless your opponent's frozen. He's got to figure out a way to piece all this together and actually kill his opponent. And there goes an Ice Lance now, so it's a little bit less damage he has at this point.
He does have enough, is the thing. He's got Power Blast, he's got Forgotten Torch, which means he's going to have a Roaring Torch.
That's a counterspell picked up for Toaster. And that could really do some damage to Radlak here. I mean, the fact that is he anticipating a second counterspell? I mean, he's on the ropes. He's got to make something happen in the next 2 turns.
Well, he does have 2 Frostbolts total in the deck. So that's one of the cards that is a common 2 of with Reno. Ice Block being the second one, and sometimes you can run double of Ice Barrier too. So we'll have to see.
I mean, I'm thinking you got to go for this. He's going to go ahead and Reno instead. Wants to preserve his Ice Block as long as he can. Oh, nope, not quite. He's definitely thinking about this option.
I'm feeling like Secret Mage, the ultimate counter to Reno Freeze Mage. Who would have known?
Well, he's rich this turn, up to 30, but it's a lot of damage he's facing on board.
Yeah, this game still isn't over because Radlak does have the burst, and now he's got the health. Now he's got the health to work with. So
perhaps a little bit too quick on the draw there. Yeah, decides to take out Reno instead. Toaster just seems comfortable just playing the slow game.
Yeah. So he's still.
You got a Pyroblast this turn, right?
Yeah, you have to. But he's still 3 turns away from a victory, but I guess so is Toaster. But he has to
come down to that Conjurer.
Yeah, if he can pick up second Ice Block or I don't even know, Counterspell maybe. The thing is, he can't. He will be able to pop the block at 1 next turn. So a Counterspell wouldn't be able to help.
Oh, that one's able to help. Wow, Keys and Mystic gets drawn for Toaster, and Radlak gets blown out by that card.
What?
Wow, what just happened?
What? How does a game like that end with just a casual Kazan Mystic off the top of the deck into a win? That's just nuts.
That was a lot more about the way that Toaster was playing that game, because he played it so very careful for most of the time. And so knowing that he's got keys in his deck obviously is kind of his game plan in hindsight. Like, once you see the keys in happen, you're like, oh, all these plays prior to this make so much more sense. Like, that was the reason he was playing it so defensively, is because he knew that he had that card for inevitability. But goodness, that's a very interesting game. Radlak had a couple opportunities to attack way earlier there. Maybe regretting not taking a more aggressive stance to that one. Both players just played so defensively.
What is happening? This is what appears to be a Malagos Warlock versus a Mill Rogue
Oh, that is definitely Mill Road. When you see Banish coming, Cold Oracle is kind of a telling sign, but when you see Banish enter the hand, this is a deck that relies around forcing each player to draw lots of cards, and then stalling out the game with all of their defensive rogue spells. Think Backstab, Eviscerate, Sap, having big swing turns with Preparation and Banish to stick all your opponent's minions back in their hand while they have full hands because of your Cold Light Oracles, and then continuing to build until you get one ultimate turn where you force your opponent to draw so many cards that they die from fatigue.
Yeah, and against a Malagos Warlock, which one will tap and cycle to get them closer, fill their hand even more, which reduces the likelihood that you mill an important card. Two, they do have a lot of important cards that aren't necessarily crucial to their win condition. It is a sort of a mid-range deck up until the point. It's very similar. It reminds me a lot of Druid, where it does have a lot of mid-range minions. And then it also has a win condition in Malagos plus spells. So it's sort of a combo-esque type deck after the mid game is sort of played out. So I don't know. This matchup once again is a little bit of a weird one. But as long as Toaster can get into a position where he's not under too much pressure, I feel like he can win. But I don't know. I want to say that the Malagos Warlock's favored because of all the mid-range aspects of it.
I would tend to say the Warlock is favored in this matchup simply because of Malagos. If they can put together a big Malagos turn, it's usually kind of lights out for the Mill Rogue at this point. Now, that being said, Toaster's looking like he's getting very close to putting together one of those hands that can fill your opponent's hand with a bunch of cards and then make them draw too much. And this is exactly one of those situations. So Prep Vanish, this is like the big swing turn. All cards back to hand, and now he just coins out this Cold Light Oracle. That's going to burn 2 cards. It's going to help fill up his hand. This is kind of the win condition of this deck. It takes a long time to really put all this together, but if you can play defense for long enough, it makes a big difference. And Loatheb is such an important burn.
Yeah. Huh. So Toaster actually had a chance there to coin out Cold Light Oracle before he vanished.
Yeah, I'm curious if I would like to see that, or even to see the Shadow Step on the Cold Light Oracle. It's such an important minion to this build.
Yeah.
That when your opponent has an opportunity to kill it, they'll basically just kill it. And drawing Bran afterwards, that's like the major reason why Cold Light Oracle is so important in this deck, is because the whole goal at the end of the game is to land Bran and Cold Light Oracle turns, so that way you can actually force your opponent into that fatigue.
Yeah, he wouldn't have overdrawn. He would have put a Cold Light Oracle back in his hand, still milled Radlak for the same amount, but also had a Cold Light Oracle. It seems like, I'm going to throw it out there again, a strictly better play, Admirable.
Strictly better is going to be the phrase of the day. Yeah, Toaster working on a much lighter hand now afterwards, but still plenty of tools in his hand to work with.
Yeah.
At least Starseeker makes its way to hand, too.
Okay, well, I have seen this before, so it's not a crazy thing, but it does give you sort of an added win condition if you know that a mill strategy is not going to be viable anymore. Like if you, I don't know, there's some situations where you just mess up your early game, or where you're like even on cards, which rarely happens, but sometimes it does, where you can use the lease and have that secondary win condition besides only mill. But it's very rare that it actually ever happens.
Soulfire's going to be the lead here. And Twilight Guardian, I think, a pretty good discard. Not a critically important card of this matchup. Oh, Emperor Thaurissan off the Deathlord. This is some bad news for Toaster. That is one of the strongest cards that you can have against this deck, because what it's trying to do is offset your opponent's curve. It's trying to keep them from being able to play lots of cards. You want to kind of force them into 1 or 2 plays a turn, and then disrupt it. With Emperor Thaurissan, it unlocks such a much bigger potential to play a bunch of stuff than you normally would. And that, oh goodness, that's scary. That needs to be taken care of.
Yeah. And Sap doesn't really take care of it now. Well, it takes care of it for now, but it doesn't really take care of it in general. It just seems like Toaster's kind of going through the motions here. He's not really thinking about his plays too much. And he is going to be under a lot of pressure. Not having that Cold Light Oracle might be a little bit of a bigger deal than we sort of suspect early on. He could have milled more cards. He would have had Bran plus Cold Light Oracle, maybe even just to look for answers himself. Not even to win the game, but look for answers himself. He still has the Shadow Step, and now he just basically has Shadow Step for anti-Keelbot, which, yeah, it's great to stall out the game, but there goes part of your win condition when you use that just to sort of stall it out for a while.
Yeah, I think you kind of hit it with the Toaster. Just at this point, when he sees the Emperor Thorson, may just be resigned to his fate. Well, didn't really think through his last turn too much. But that could just be a situation where he's like, he looks at the board, he's like, I just know I can't recover this. I lost my Cold Eye Oracle. Should have Shadow Stepped it and had that win condition still potentially available. Like you said, just anti-kill bots. So he's going to stall out the game for a while, but the writing is kind of on the wall at this point. Your opponent's got 2 Emperor activations. They're going to get a third one, and both saps have been used at this point. How do you take care of this board from here?
He even throws an attack into a 3/6 Twilight or Twilight Guardian. So
you know what a 9/9 Reliquary Seeker looks like?
Baby.
Looks like
Let's take a look.
Yeah. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Not quite enough. If he played this Azure Drake, actually, I think he had lethal.
Yeah. He would have had 8 damage. He would have had. He would have had.
Yeah.
Whoops.
So,
how often can you pass up the opportunity to go for a 9/9 Reliquary Seeker though?
Yeah, especially a 0-mana 9/9 Reliquary Seeker. He's going to go ahead and use the power of roaming anyway. Not too much lost. Opponent's at 7. You have lethal next turn. You have all the board presence in the world. Toaster would need a miracle to get out of this position, and he's not even close. He's got healed to 23, but look at the board pressure.
Well, he can start Shadow Step and heal bots again, because that plan worked out great for him.
Gosh, being harsh. You're like Kripparrian harsh today.
I apologize.
No, don't apologize. I think it's great.
Yeah, he threw away his win conditions. It felt like, and against this deck, you sort of have to all in on a singular win condition, even though that might feel like you're taking risks by taking more damage. Without a Cold Light Oracle, what are you gonna do? It just feels like the deck has a lot of cards that are very mediocre by themselves. The thing is, when they're pieced together in a way that makes it super awkward for your opponent, when you force them to overdraw, when you have ways to look for answers to all of their stuff every single turn, with Cold Light Oracles, it just feels like that opportunity for Toaster was thrown away. And now that is going to be another game going over to Radlak, so that's going to be a 2-1 lead in this series. It is going to be on match point going into his final deck.
Yeah. Milrogue, in my experience, has been a deck that's been incredibly difficult to play. Like, even when I get wonderful hands with it, I'll lose a game in the long run. I look back and I go, how did I lose this game? And I'll find like one turn where I had like a really weird sequence of plays I could have made and be like, wow, that actually would have worked out a lot better than just prepping my Vanish and playing a Cold Light Oracle, which often ends up being one of your best turns that you have. But you have to really understand this deck and really understand the matchups with it to make the most effect with it. Like, if this is a deck where if you misstep one time, you can quite literally lose the game because of it. Mm-hmm. And so because of that, it requires a wealth of experience, especially for a deck that isn't even really top tier. At the end of the day, you can pilot this deck so much better than everybody else and still be left at a disadvantage simply because its overall approach is a little bit weak.
Yeah. And we're moving into this matchup, and I'd say this is a pretty good matchup for the Milrogue.
Yeah, being able to Shadow Step anti-Keel bots here makes a much bigger difference than it did in the previous game.
Yeah, also, having a deck that relies on not being able to be killed on your turn, playing against it with a deck that's win condition kills them on their own turn, is great.
Yeah, I'm just going to go for Cold Light Oracle here.
The prep gang up.
Yeah, prep gang up. Not a surprise to see there. That is a scary sight if you're playing Freeze Mage.
Oh, baby. Oh, baby, a triple. Cold Light Oracle.
And you look at this Cold Light Oracle and you go, just Frostbolt it? Yeah, I guess I do. And this is kind of the advantage that Milrogue is going to have in this matchup, is that you kind of want your opponent to play Acolyte. You want your opponent to play Arcane Intellect. You want them to be drawing cards. Like, that's playing right into your hands as the Milrogue player. And so the only thing he's got to be concerned with is all of the burst potential that Radlak can eventually put together. And so Alex draws a key card, all the burn spells are key cards, but you have anti-Keel bots to answer those. So it's a matter of if he can draw all of the cards to kind of answer those situations, he's going to be in fantastic shape. Otherwise, this game's going over to Radlak.
Yeah. And Reno Jackson, I don't know if that's going to help too much. but we'll definitely have to see. What you want to do in this matchup, I suppose, as the Reno Freeze Mage, is just throw away all the cards that you're not going to use. And yeah, it's going to be tough for him to find a way back into it. We'll have to see.
Lack of action for Toaster this turn. Yeah, just kind of waiting to draw the right cards. This is a tough spot. Like, this is the spot where I feel most vulnerable with this deck, is when I don't actually have a way to draw cards or really do anything.
Yep, and the key here is going to be drawing those Cold Light Oracles, but the thing is, you can't, like, force it. You can't just start throwing those Cold Light Oracles out, because you can mill them, but until you're fatiguing them, sometimes that mill doesn't matter unless you're hitting those key cards. And unless you're going to get, like, 5+ mills, it doesn't feel as good to start milling your opponent, because it also, if they are drawing cards, you're getting them closer to being able to kill you. So Banish also is sort of not a useless card, but it's not nearly as useful in this matchup than it is in other ones, because the Freeze Mage never really plays more than 1 minion at a time, sometimes 2, and a lot of times it's good. They want you to put those back in their hand if they don't have a full hand, because it gives them extra secrets for mad scientists, or it allows them to, well, I guess no, take that back, unless it's like a novice engineer, then it works out pretty well.
I'm just going to Shadow Step Deathlord here, just wants to keep it protected, and Radlak is going to say, you know what, I think I just need a 4/6 on board to start attacking. And I don't disagree with this. I think this is a matchup where he quite literally needs to get a 4/6 on board and start attacking with it.
Yeah, that's very true. And just get something out of his hand. He can't wait for Reno to be activated. The sap Reno Jackson.
Yeah, he's going to activate Ice Barrier as well. I'm a little bit surprised by that.
He can just never attack, but I guess he wants to get the recurring damage from the dagger in, which I suppose has some merit. But in order for that to pay off, he's going to have to attack for like 2 more turns.
Yep, is going to not cycle these Phantom Knives either. I'm curious exactly what he's holding these for. Maybe he's holding onto him for Acolyte of Pain. But you know, I think at this point I'd be wanting to dig to my Cold Light Oracles. You know, he has 4 copies left in his deck. You know, additional copies to gang up, maybe even the Elise at this point. This feels like a spot where I want to draw cards, and this is the turn he's going to do it. Just wanted to get his Death Lord in line last turn, dagger up again. His first fan into prep. So not too much help from him at this point, kind of just waiting as Toaster. But time, I think, is definitely on his side.
Yeah. And right now, he's got like 4 Cold Light Oracles in the deck, or something ridiculous like that, and he's probably got less than 20 cards. Hard to calculate since he used Gang Up, so put more cards in his deck, but that means every single turn he has like a 20% chance at the very least to draw a Cold Light Oracle. And with Bran, and if he draws into another Shadow Step, he does have Vanish as well, so as we get to the later turns, that's going to be a possibility, especially with prep. So there's going to be a lot of ways for him to cycle through and find it. Bran plus Elise Starseeker.
Yeah, 2 maps to the Golden Monkey in there.
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if that's good. Because do you want to turn your Cold Light Oracles into legendaries? I don't even think so.
I know that I have played Bran and Lee Starseeker before. It's really cool when it happens, but probably not his game plan in this one.
Yeah, I don't know. He just wants to find those Cold Lights.
Flame Strike and Ping. I think I would like to see him save Bran for those Cold Lights, indeed. Oh, there's one of them.
Yeah. This also makes it, I guess, Cold Light Oracle or map can draw a Cold Light Oracle. Like it doesn't put a dead draw in your deck. It just means you have to spend 2 extra mana to cycle through.
Oh, there's one map.
You know, you might as well, I guess. I don't know. It just feels like such a weird card to put in as a secondary win condition for a mill deck. Seems like both of those strategies work against each other.
Yeah. Milling Torch, I think kind of a welcome sight for him, but this is going to be big Emperor Thoris on turn here for Radlak. A lot of those key pieces in his hand. And he's sitting behind an ice block and has another ice block in his hand. You know, with that Alex Straza drawn, he may just feel comfortable in his ability to actually close this one. Now, Anti-Keelbot shows up, so this could throw a wrench into things, but there's no Shadow Step in Toaster's hand. For that afterwards. He's just going to keep forcing the draws.
What's he going to mill? Loot Hoarder? That's not what he wants to see, but he's going to get one more here, and we'll see what that's going to be. Blizzard, that doesn't really help either. He wants to see Burn is what he wants to see.
About 2 Emperor activations.
Yeah, that's going to be brutal, especially we didn't see Radlak's whole deck. There probably is a Archmage Antonidas.
Well, he's got the Forgotten Torches in there, so this may be the Torch version rather than the Archmage version.
Yeah, but it's also Reno, so I don't know if there's even a version that we can... Reno Jackson is a version of, you know, what cards do you get through first in your collection when you're building a Reno Jackson deck? And maybe an Archmage Antonidas, we'll have to see. But if there is one, then that's going to be a lot of fireballs that he is going to be able to get with double activation. Frostbolt and both Ice Lances are going to be... Ooh, Arcane Intellect seems bold, but I guess he just wants more cards to be reduced. There's the Archmage.
Right as I say, it might be a Torch version instead. You got a good point with the Reno Jackson, though. It's a very excellent point.
And now he's basically got infinite damage. Not infinite damage, but that's a lot. He can get 4 fireballs in one turn. The only thing is that he can't get cards out of his hand. But with Archmage and a lot of cheap spells, that might be all he needs to close out the game. Because he has Alex Straza. Ooh.
My hand is too full.
And he just...
Another Cold Light Oracle. He's going to forego that one.
If he picks up a Shadow Step...
Oh, 10 points gets burned. Does have the Archmage, though, so he can easily make this up. He's got 3, 11. He's got 17 damage available to him this turn. So if he uses Alex Straza, it puts his opponents at 15. He's going to see the Anti-Keelbot come up, which is going to put him to 23. Then he can burst for 17 with the Archmage, pick up 4 copies of Fireball. And I think that's part of his gameplay right now. But his deck is very low on cards. So he does have to consider... If my opponent has ways to bounce these Cold Light Oracles and force me to draw too many cards, can my opponent just kill me?
He has all the cards he needs to win in his hand. So that's one thing. So we'll see if...
I think he's just going to go for the Archmage now, which is totally fine, too. I mean, Alex Rouse is only 6 points of damage here, so... I think this plan is just more effective in the long term.
It gets you there faster, I suppose.
Yeah, a lot faster.
Yeah, he's going to have 13 damage next turn. And he's going to throw out the Doomsayer, though, so this increases the likelihood that he draws into more burn, because I think he has a Frostbolt left. And it also reduces the likelihood that Toaster can kill off all of these. Double Heal Bot! Holy moly!
You know, this is actually, like, kind of smart for him to drop the Doomsayers to couple with this. Because if his opponent heals too much, he's able to Alex Straza him afterwards. Oh, he's going for the mill plan here.
He's out of cards. He's got lethal next turn with double Cold Light, I'm pretty sure.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is...
He's going to go one into Fatigue, and then the next turn he's going to go 4 more into Fatigue.
Oh, jeez.
5 plus 9 damage, that's 14. Then the following turn would be an additional 6, so that'd be 20. Oh, man.
All the attacks have added up. I mean, he's pushed through both ice barriers, too.
Yeah.
So even had the longevity to just push through the ice barriers, which honestly, that's a little bit surprising to me. And he's considering prepping the Eviscerate here. He does have 10 cards in hand. He says, you know what? Don't need those extra cards. Don't really care about them. Can you win from this board state?
Yeah. And that is going to be lethal next turn with Cold Lights, because it'll be 9 total damage. And then the following turn, he'll take an extra 6. So that'll be perfect lethal, even with just a Cold Light Oracle. He can even throw an Eviscerate at the face, so... that is going to... It should do it if I count it correctly.
Antique. Well, it's going to go Cold Light Oracle, so it's going to be 4 points and 5 points. That's 9.
And then 6 points on the backswing, which will proc your ice block. So.
Wow!
Oh baby! Toaster taking a win.
That's pretty much the dream matchup, I think, for Mill Rogue too. Like any of the super long term combo decks
Yeah.
that don't really have the time to piece everything together because you're actually forcing them into these weird spots with Cold Light Oracles.
Yeah.
Ends up being such a big advantage to him.
Yeah. And before we jump into the last match, we are going to have to take a quick break before we jump into game number 5 of this series. Just got to get something sorted out real quick. So don't go anywhere, guys. The conclusion to the series between Radlak and Toast, the exciting conclusion, will continue in just a few moments.
I'll drink to that! That's the worst thing I've ever tasted! That's some strong brew!
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Hearthstone Major presented by One Nation of Gamers from PAX East. We apologize for the delay, but we're about to get back underway with the series between Radlak and Toaster. Once again, I'm TJ, and I am joined by That's Admirable. This is a crazy series. We've seen Mill Rogue, we've seen Reno Freeze Mage, we've seen Secret Mage. I don't even know what to say, Admirable. It's just nuts.
Well, we're going to head into game number 5 here, where Radlak and his Freeze Mage is going to have to take on the Dragon Priest from Toaster. Freeze Mage hasn't really been getting it done in the last couple series, but I would venture to say that against Dragon Priest, he's got a pretty good matchup ahead of him.
Oh, baby, that is right. Freeze Mage has classically done well against essentially every type of Priest deck. The only one that I can think would have any sort of shot would be Aggro Priest or OTK Priest, but even then, you have to get through ice blocks, and it's just really tough thing to do. So, yeah, I'd say that Radlak should be able to take a win here. Still could be up in the air. We haven't seen Toaster's entire deck. There might be a little bit of a curveball in there. Reno Jackson Freeze Mage is a little bit more inconsistent than regular Freeze Mage. So I still don't know what to expect because this series has delivered on many different fronts. But we are going to jump right in and get underway with game number 5 of this series. Winner moves on to, I believe, the round of 64 is we're on 128. Oh no, we're on 256 right now. So the winner moves on to the round of 128. Still lots of matches to win for these fellas.
Yeah, Toaster's hand a little bit heavy at the moment. Dark Cultist, Blackwing Corruptor, Hungry Dragon, Draconid Crusher, and Shadow Menace. Not too useful most of the time in this matchup. Meanwhile, Arcane Intellect, Acolyte of Pain, Mad Science, Frostbolt, Ice Block for Radlak. It's looking like he's going to have a pretty substantial advantage here He's got plenty of ways to draw cards. He's got plenty of ways to thin out his deck. And want to trade that Mad Scientist first for sure if you're going to draw cards. I wouldn't mind seeing an Acolyte from this turn, but definitely no problems with the Arcane Intellect either. I mean, just taking the immediate draws and then looking for more impactful cards to play later on is, it's totally reasonable. Totally reasonable line of play. Twilight Welt picked up any points of damage. You're going to be pretty happy with your Toaster. But this one, he's got to get going. If he gets a big enough board presence and Radlak doesn't have Frost Nova Doomsayer, there's a chance he could keep the pressure pretty high, but that has got to be the situation that he's looking for in this game.
There's a lot of powerful minions in this deck, which if left alone can do some big things, but just so many ways to stall this Reno Freeze Mage has. So there's not really too many cards that just do a lot of stuff from hand. There's not Burst. So Blackwing Corruptor is just about the most burst that you can get. Blackwing Corruptor, actually the most amount of burst is just double Blackwing Corruptor, I'm pretty sure. 6 damage burst.
There's really not a lot of burst from Dragon Priest. I mean, that's been, sort of been the story of Priest for as long as it's been a class, is the lack of burst that class has right now.
Except for the most efficient face damage from a 2-mana card in the game.
Which has a lot of flexibility as well. If you've ever played with Mind Blast, you know that there's so many different ways to use that card.
What is Mind Blast strictly better than? I don't know. Strictly better than...
Shadow Bomber.
Sure, a Shadow Bomber. No, strictly
a
better
card
than
in its own class.
Strictly better than a Sinister Strike that costs 2.
Yeah, perfect. That's exactly
strictly
what
better than a Sinister Strike.
If you have Emperor Thorisand 4 times, and then you get Loathebbed, the Mind Blast is strictly better than that Sinister Strike is right there.
Yeah, 100% better. All right, well, back to the match. This is basically how Reno Freeze Mage versus Dragon Priest goes. I mean, I know a lot of you have experience playing this deck on ladder just because of how popular the matchup is, and you probably know already, but it's just really tough for the Dragon Priest to get a hold of the board.
Yeah, I mean, they just play minion, and kind of hope, honestly, that your opponent just doesn't have the right spells, which honestly is kind of a fine strategy for some of the aggro decks that are out there. I mean, the matchup plays like a slower version of aggro versus a lot of the control decks, where the aggro decks, they play like Leopard on turn 1, they play a very cheap threat on turn 2, they play a very cheap threat or 2 threats on turn 3, and then they're hoping their opponent doesn't have Hellfire or Consecration or something along those lines, or like a big Whirlwind turn with a weapon set up. This one's a little bit slower, where you're kind of playing like a 3-mana and 4-mana and 5-mana minions and hoping your opponent hasn't drawn Blizzard and Flame Strike at that point. The extra time that you give them is the difference between them being able to find the right cards much more often than they would in the prior scenario. And so because of that, it ends up turning the table so much in the control player's favor that it's difficult to really piece together. But Radlak just hasn't really drawn any AoE this game so far. He's drawn a lot of cards this game too. I mean, a single Flame Strike or a single Blizzard is really going to change the way that this table looks right now.
Yeah. And, even just the win condition for Freeze Mage against Priest is just so linear. You just freeze the board, play Alexstrasza, and he throws spells at their face. They're not going to press you out most of the time, as long as you draw it in a pretty timely manner. And like you said, drawing a lot of cards so far, Radlak is. So picks up a Frost Nova, that buys an extra turn. Maybe not this turn, but in future turns. Let's see how much damage is being represented on board. 14. So he's still okay.
I think you're looking potentially at a ping this turn. Does have 12 points of damage in his hand. I mean, Emperor Thorisand's not looking the worst here. With the second copy of Ice Block, you can go Emperor Thorisand this turn. Gets his Ice Block potentially popped. Rolls into maybe a Frost Nova turn afterwards. If your opponent's popping your Ice Block, they're not killing your Emperor Thorisand. Something important to note. Ooh, Pyroblast gets drawn. I mean, that may be the ticket to actually go for this, but looks like he's going to keep drawing. Doomsayer gets drawn. That's gonna stop this game plan. It is gonna be Frost Nova Doomsayer, and just enough time. The very last card that Radlak could have drawn this turn, and that one card, the difference between a slower version of Beatdown and a quicker version of Beatdown.
Yeah, and there's just no way for Priest to deal with the Doomsayer. Absolutely no way.
Needs like Shadow Word Pain or something.
Yeah, or Vol'jin Holy Nova on turn 10.
Alchemist. Confused.
Alchemix, yeah. Confuse. Oh my goodness.
Alexstrasza under an ice block with Pyroblast, Fireball, Frostbolt, and Forgotten Torch in hand. I think this one's done like dinner, TJ.
Yep, I will have to agree with you there. And here's going to go with the old Blackwing Corruptor and kill the Alexstrasza over 2 turns game plan. And that's in every priest's playbook.
Yep, it's going to dig for, looks like Shadow or Death here. Yep, no hope for this one. Alexstrasza is actually going to connect for 8. That's usually when you know that your deck is a really bad matchup versus something, is when they can, or versus Freeze Mage, is when they can play Alexstrasza and pretty safely connect with it afterwards.
Yeah. And that's going to be Radlak taking a close series, moving on to the round of 128. He will keep fighting in the Hearthstone Major and move on. And unfortunately, Toaster, that means he's been eliminated. A little bit unfortunate because his decks were really cool, really fun to watch with the Mill Rogue. And of course, with that Secret Mage, that's the first time I've seen that in a competitive environment. So props to him for that bold call. But Radlak is going to take the series and move on.
Yeah, I do like the Secret Mage call. I did play Secret Mage in 2014, that stage 2 of BlizzCon, where it took me to a wonderful 0-2 performance at that event. But yeah, I mean, you got to respect anyone for bringing their decks that they like to play and playing some Hearthstone. I mean, that's what this event is about. It's an open event. You had to walk up and sign up, and when you have to be in person at events, it's a much more traditional style of card environment where you see players play what they want to play, period, because they want to play them. And that's something that I actually really love about live events, is that it's capturing that feeling that I had growing up in card games, was that it was a social environment. It was about being around the people that were there. And occasionally you found some people bring some stuff that you hadn't seen before. And it was actually pretty good. So always looking forward to seeing more designs from that way. And, good luck to him in his future events.
Yeah, I resonate with that same feeling. But I never had competitive card game experience. I just bought cards, but made my own rules against my friends when they came over to my house. So it was competitive in its own right. But I would make up rules, and then midway through the match, I would just make up rules again. So